I think I was around 18 years old. We'd been dating for about 8 months, and I broke up with him because my parents were treating me differently, and I didn't like it. It put too much strain on both my BF and my parents and I's relationship, and I couldn't take it. Broke up with him one night, and about a week later he showed up at my parents' house wanting to talk to me. My mom answered the door. I didn't want any part of it, so she told him to go away. He got belligerent and eventually left, so she called the police. He was pulled over and given a warning, then they let him be. Dad was at work, Mom took sister somewhere, and I was playing Mario Party 8 on my Wii at home. There was a knock at the back door, and I looked through the glass from the couch, and he was there looking in, trying to talk to me. Again, I didn't want any part of it, so I ignored him. He got mad and shouldered the door. The frame cracked. He did it again, and the door burst open. I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he grabbed me and put me over his shoulder and carried me outside. I figured he was just going to put me in the front seat and leave with me. But then he popped the trunk of his car with the remote, and I realized what was going to happen. I twisted a little, which surprised him, and he dropped me. But then he put me in a headlock where I couldn't breathe, and I stopped struggling. He tossed me in the trunk and shut it and drove off. At this point, I was doing everything I could to get out of the trunk. It was a Buick LeSabre, the model which, of course, doesn't have a way to open the trunk from the inside. So I started kicking the back of the seats to get out. I eventually got one open enough to stick my head through to get some air. It was in August, and the temperatures outside were riding 95 degrees, so inside the trunk was about 110. I got my head out and could finally breathe. He had calmed down a bit, and I knew he just wanted to talk to me, so he didn't really freak when I was able to climb into the back seat. When he was putting me in the trunk, the neighbor kids were outside, and they saw what was happening and ran inside to tell their parents. Parents called the police, police called my mom, and my mom was doing 95 down the highway to get home. Ex-BF drove me an hour and a half away to an old camp he used to go to, and we talked for a while. He then took me to Pizza Hut, 'cause I said I was hungry. I remember wondering why no one was concerned that I was waiting for a pizza without shoes or socks on. Because no one said anything, I figured my parents hadn't realized what had happened yet. Little did I know an Amber Alert had already been issued. Anyways, he decided he didn't want to go to jail, so he was going back to his workplace/place of residence to get his shotgun. When he got there, the cops were waiting for him and tried to taser him. They missed, and he jumped back in his car and did a backwards U-turn. He started driving through the city at speeds of 60 to 85 miles per hour. If you've never been in a high-speed police pursuit, let me tell you, it's a rush. So much adrenaline. Anyways, he was going to get on the highway, but the police had it blocked off with spike strips, so he turned onto a back road that dead-ended. He ended up crashing into a tree. I was in the front seat by this time. The cops swarmed the car, pulled us both out, and since they didn't realize who we were, cuffed us both and put us in separate cop cars. Once everything was situated, they uncuffed me and put me in a police SUV and transported me back to the police station in my city. Parents and sister were there, freaked out, found out I was okay. The whole ordeal lasted around 10 hours. Ex got 4 years and is now out of jail in a halfway house. My ex broke into house, headlocked me into his trunk on a 90-degree day. 10 hours later, got in a high-speed police pursuit, resulting in him crashing into a tree and being arrested. He got 4 years, is now out of jail in a halfway house. I've had 3 girlfriends in my life. My current girlfriend, who I've been with for 3 years, happily my first girlfriend in college, and my second girlfriend, Kelly, was someone who put me through hell emotionally and sometimes physically. I'll start from the beginning. Kelly and I matched on Bumble, and upon seeing that we both attended the same college, we based our conversation off that, and any people that we may have mutually known after seeing each other for about a month. We made it official and we dated for about 6 months. Like most relationships, at first everything seemed great, and we got along fine. But the illusion of being a happy couple faded after a few months when Kelly would start becoming very controlling and downright obsessive over knowing what I was doing. At all times, the longer we dated, the more I realized she didn't have many friends at all, maybe 1 or 2, that's about it. So when I would go out to see my friends on the weekends without her, she would always obsessively text me every 15 minutes, asking me for proof of where I was, if I were ever to be at a bar without her. She'd throw a fit. She'd make me share my location with her after 4 or 5 months of dating. It got to the point I couldn't handle it anymore. She had too much time on her hands to worry about what I was doing. Constantly. I couldn't even go see my friends without constantly being attacked and interrogated by her. But one night, things escalated far worse than they ever had. Admittedly, I ended up at a bar and very drunk with a group of my drinking buddies. We started at my friend Kevin's house, and I didn't intend on ending up at a bar. When I got home, Kelly was waiting in front of my mom's house for me with a batshit crazy look on her face. This was one of the first nights that she laid hands on me, repeatedly hitting me while screaming, "I'm a dirty cheater," and other insane things, all while outside, causing a scene for the neighbors to hear after I had to grab her arms to get her to stop. She shouted things like, "Get off me, I'm calling the police," so I let go and told her we're done. This was officially when I broke up with her, and her response was not good. Every single day I received paragraphs upon paragraphs, ranging from angry to alleged regretful back to angry. Eventually I felt more comfortable blocking Kelly for a while, but that wasn't the end. One of my friends who followed her on Instagram still sent me a screenshot of the picture she posted with his big, ugly, muscular guy who looked like he wanted to kill the person taking the picture. I made a joke to my friend saying, "Wow, I see. She upgraded Kelly. Did the unimaginable, though I was all cozy in my bed, in the perceived safety of the house. I was home alone, as I usually was, living in my parents' house. That was when I heard a pounding at the front door. Downstairs, I jumped out of bed and went out to the living room to listen. There was a man, screams from the other side. He was screaming, 'Open up, pussy.' I didn't acknowledge him. I didn't want him to know I was home. Then some random number was calling my phone. When I didn't pick up, I got a text from someone threatening to kill me and telling me to open the door before he breaks the window. I ignored these and called 911. I heard glass breaking from outside. I looked out my window and I saw a familiar, huge, bearded guy right by my SUV. He was smashing my windows. I recognized the guy to be from Kelly's picture, as I was on the phone with 911. I explained that my crazy ex-girlfriend sent her current boyfriend to my house to threaten me, and he was currently damaging my vehicle. I answered a bunch of questions as police were en route all the while. The man kept screaming things from outside and pounding on my door and sending threatening texts. Police showed up surprisingly quickly to my relief, and they caught the guy still in front of my house. They saw him step off the front stoop after he saw the cop car pulling up. I went outside right away and showed the police my car and the texts, and the big roid, raging man was still yelling at me that I'm going to fucking pay for talking shit about him to Kelly. I told him I hadn't spoken to Kelly in months, and he said, "Oh yeah, what about the texts?" As he was in handcuffs already. I said, "What texts?" And he accused me of being a bullshitter. So after he was brought away in one of 2 police cars, I gave the second police officer whatever information he needed of the situation between Kelly and I. And he told me I had a good case for harassment and should definitely file for a restraining order immediately. He told me to head to the precinct the next day, which is what I did. But I also unblocked Kelly and asked her what she said to her boyfriend and why. And after she responded claiming she had no idea what I was talking about, I sent her a long text, giving her a piece of my mind, basically telling her about my getting restraining order and telling her to seek help. I never heard from her again, nor her crazy, raging now ex-boyfriend. According to my friend, she deleted the picture with him literally the next day. After that happened, I currently have a restraining order against both her and her ex-boyfriend, Javier. Cruz, be careful who you decide to date. There's a whole lot of crazy out there. So I used to date this girl in high school who would always tell me she was contemplating suicide. I thought it was serious at first, but after a while I realized she just wanted attention. She would cut herself by giving herself scratch marks on her arms, and would then wear tank tops in the middle of winter and sit with her arms outstretched on the table so people could notice and make comments. Anyway, we broke up after a year, but she only got crazier. She started dating a friend of mine a couple years later and would stalk the shit out of him. One of my favorite stories of his was when they got into a fight and didn't talk for about a week. Apparently, she went to his house one day and was let in by my friend's parents. She made up some bullshit story about waiting for him to come home so they could talk, etc. Anyway, she goes into his room and starts cutting up all his clothes with a pair of scissors she had brought with her and then left. Later on that week, when he was brushing his teeth, he said he bent over to spit out the toothpaste, and when he stood up again, she was standing behind him looking at him in the mirror like something out of a horror film. Then she ran out, crying hysterically. After a few more of those crazy episodes of hers, my friend decided to cut her off completely. But it gets worse. Fast forward a couple years later, my crazy ex is now dating another guy I know. They stay together for a while, but soon he realizes that she's nuts and decides to break up with her. Only she won't accept it. She waits outside his house every day and calls him constantly, trying to talk to him. This goes on for a couple of weeks, until he tells her to leave him alone and not talk to him anymore. She can't handle it, and the stalking continues. He gets on average 30 to 50 calls a day from her, and literally hundreds of texts from the girl. She is always sitting outside his house, waiting for chance to talk to him, and it drives him to the point where he actually got a restraining order against her. A week later, she broke into his home and he found her sitting on his couch, waiting for him. He called the cops and they remove her from the property, and she ends up having to spend the weekend in jail. But wait, there's more. She starts telling people she is pregnant, and even goes with one of her cousins to get a sonogram. Twice. Both times the doctors tell her that she is not pregnant and that there is no baby. She tells everyone that they have no idea what they are talking about, and due to the fact that she has brittle bone disease, the baby actually got lodged up somewhere inside her rib cage, and that is why they couldn't see anything during the sonogram. Word of this gets out, and now her friends have even given up trying to help her. The craziest part of this is that after a couple of weeks, she actually starts forming a belly. She even sends pics of her stomach to friends and family member Essen to show them she's really pregnant. But she's not. Apparently there is a psychological disorder where women can convince themselves that they are pregnant and start to show signs of being pregnant, but they actually aren't. Anyway, the last I heard, she is forcing her family to throw her a baby shower in April and is due sometime later that month.